All right, it's time for Rings of Power, Episode 5, review and thoughts. I watch a lot of them online. I'm not going to do like what a lot of them do, which is basically go scene by scene and kind of break it down. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that overall, I have a couple conflicting feelings about it. On one hand, the nerd in me wants to be completely outraged at it because what they've done in this episode is largely a travesty in the sense that they are now inventing their own lore for this series. They're not even bothering sticking with the script. They have thousands of years to work with on this series. They've got that available to them, thousands of years, which means that there's plenty that they can insert into here of actual Tolkien lore. When you decide that you would rather introduce new crap that isn't even remotely related to the actual Tolkien lore, and on top of that, it's not as good as the Tolkien lore that you're replacing, that's when I have a problem. All of you nerds like me, you're going to know what I'm talking about. The Balrog fighting with an elf over a tree that gets struck by lightning that has a Silmaril in it, and that lightning strike sends a shockwave into the earth, which then forms Mithril, and the elves need to be bathed in the light of Mithril or else their entire race will die. This is elementary level nonsense. This isn't even it. They're taking something and they're trying to add in their own fantasy. That's what it feels like to me. So the original impetus for them using Mithril, if I remember correctly, is that Mithril is so strong and it would be great for forging the rings with. So, okay, here's maybe what they're going to do with it. This I hope. Maybe this is a way to save it. Even though I think that that's a dumb premise, maybe what they're going to end up doing is they're going to, come into an interaction with Sauron, and Sauron's going to be like, no. You don't need to bathe your whole elf race in the light of Mithril in order to be saved. All you guys have to do is build some rings. Use the Mithril, build some rings, and, I could see that being a even though I don't like the fake myth and making Mithril into this mystical, magical thing that it's not, that's maybe one way that they can get the whole deception of the rings involved. So I would be willing to entertain that. But, dude, okay, Mithril is a hard and a very light metal that they have found, an ore that they've found in the mountains. That's it. That's all that it is in the books. So, and yes, it does kind of like hold a light to it, if I remember correctly. So, all right, that's on one hand. And it's very clear that there's going to be a battle. It's going to be kind of like a low class battle. Clearly not the last battle between Sauron and the dwarves and men and elves, which is going to be amazing if they just kind of at least stick to the script on that one. This is going to be essentially they're working towards a battle that's going to be happening at some tower that Bronwyn or Borwyn or whatever, she is boring, so I'm going to call her Borwyn. She is trying to convince everyone to stay and to fight at this tower that has apparently a statue that if they take the sword and maybe they put the sword that Theo has, if they put that sword into this one, basically like a keyhole, then they can use it to unlock something. There's a lot of carrot on stick strategies that they use in this series where they give you just enough to be like, oh, I guess I need to keep watching so I can see what they're talking about in this next one. So it's kind of like you got to just get used to being pulled along. And I'm going to talk about the other hand of like where I'm coming from as far as a watcher now. I'm kind of sort of getting warmed up to that idea or that strategy, even though I didn't expect that I would. At first, it was annoying me a lot. And I do kind of wonder if it's good for like literally convincing people to watch it one time through, but once you know what they're going for and where they're taking you on the story, then you fall back onto the bad writing, the bad acting, the bad character development, and then you're just going to be left with like, okay, well, I know what happens. That's what I'm worried about still. But they're giving you just enough to be like, all right, you need to watch a little bit more so you can find out what this statue by the tree, what that means. And we need to watch a little bit more to find out who they're actually fighting in the Southlands. We need to watch a little bit more to find out, when Sauron is going to actually show up. There's just a lot of things like that. Okay, so the other side, here's where I'm kind of resigning myself to. This series is not really doing any form of effort to be accurate with Tolkien lore. That is established. What I think that they are doing, and they have the right to do this, so I have to just give them their space to do whatever they want to do. They are taking a very loose framework of this time period. They're condensing it, and then they are basically saying within these few kind of like mile markers, such as like Elendil is the guy that's going to be Isildur's heir. Isildur is the one that's going to kill Sauron. All of these like firm fixed pieces. Numenor is going to go to war in Middle Earth. We know these things. The elves are going to build the rings. We know these things. Aside from that, they're clearly taking liberties to fill it in whatever way they want. So what we have here is a series that is taking the pillar markers and they're building whatever the crap around that they want to. Really not with regard for what Tolkien was kind of leaving us with as a vision. So the nerd in me is not happy. The nerd in me is saying you guys are basically butchering something and you're doing a worse job at it, which is often the case of books to movies. That's usually how it goes, but it's usually not done in such a blatant fashion. But we have seen, as I said in the last video, we have seen anticipated shows in which they do a terrible job and you're wondering, what the F were you thinking when you did this? Star Wars episodes 1 through 3, great example of that. Episode 1 is a complete joke, and the good thing about that is they realized it by the time Jar Jar Binks had tainted the movie screen for an entire movie. They clearly limited his role in the second one, and then in the third one, I don't even remember if he shows up. And they progressively got better, taking in the feedback of their fans, being like, okay, we're not going to admit it, but yes, we were way off on that first episode. It was trash. We could hopefully have something like that come season 2 in Rings of Power. I'm going to be optimistic about that. So we're just going to keep watching. There's a battle coming, and we're going to basically see a fight between Adar and the orcs against the elves and the one elf, Arondir, the humans that didn't give up on the tower from the Southlands, and also it looks like an expedition force from the Númenóreans as well. Definitely not the big battle yet. Sauron still needs to show up, and a lot of people are saying it's Halbrand. I hope that it's not. I would rather have Halbrand be the Witch King. I think that'd be way cooler. I think Sauron needs to... They haven't even introduced him yet. I don't like that they haven't introduced him yet. All that we know is that things are afoot between the orcs, and they're attacking a tower. That's literally all that we know about the dangers of evil in the realm so far, and the rotten leaves in the elf kingdom. That's it. So we'll see what happens. That's what I got for a takeaway from this episode. I will begrudgingly keep watching because I still want to see some of the cool stuff that they bring to light and to visual display from Middle-earth. With that being said, have a great one, and we'll see what happens with the next episode.